positive and be some talk shit. I'm gonna go fucking.
Did Jake Paul's mansion just get raided by the FBI? We'll tell you what.
Bro, we're on it, dude.
Hello? Yeah, Jake.
Jesus. Oh, bro. Oh, dude.
Logan Paul's world just tilted off its axis. Anthony Joshua has now escalated matters into the legal arena, with formal court filings tied to Jake Paul reportedly moving forward. What once lived in comment sections and speculation threads has crossed into sworn statements, attorneys, and real legal consequences. Sources indicate that Joshua's camp is no longer staying silent about the crash that nearly altered his life. Instead of online reactions, the dispute is now unfolding inside a courtroom where every claim must be backed by evidence and every word carries weight. The influencer spectacle has officially collided with the legal system. Unresolved questions, alleged negligence concerns, and responsibility surrounding the incident are now under formal review, transforming what looked like internet drama into a potentially career-shaping legal confrontation. For Logan, this moment hits differently because when lawsuits replace viral posts and judges replace comment sections, the rules of the game change permanently.
Yeah, at one point I was a light for him.
The Paul brothers are now facing a storm that has moved far beyond internet drama. What began as online controversy has reportedly entered a federal-level legal phase, with authorities reviewing matters connected to the crash that nearly changed Anthony Joshua's life. What once lived on timelines and podcasts is now being discussed in legal filings, private briefings, and formal investigations. Boxing insiders are watching closely not because of viral content, but because the implications could reshape reputations, careers, and future opportunities. Joshua, who remained publicly restrained for an extended period, has recently begun addressing the situation more directly. While careful with his words, his comments have drawn attention for what many interpret as pointed concern about responsibility and accountability surrounding the incident. Now, with legal action formally underway involving Jake Paul, the conflict has crossed into an entirely different arena, one where evidence replaces speculation and outcomes carry permanent weight. What once looked like influencer noise has officially become a real-world legal confrontation. And for everyone involved, the next phase will not be decided by views, followers, or public opinion but by facts, filings, and the courts.
Because at different stages of your life, you're allowed to evolve.
The tone around Jake Paul has flipped almost overnight. The guy who built his image on calling out Hall of Famers, projecting fearlessness, and daring anyone to step up is now being seen in a completely different light as lawyers, statements, and legal strategy suddenly take center stage. For a fan base used to trash talk and bravado, the contrast feels almost surreal. Across social media, people are reacting fast and loud. Memes, jokes, and hot takes are everywhere, framing the moment as ironic. A persona built on confrontation now navigating a world where every word is filtered through attorneys and paperwork instead of microphones and cameras. Whether it's fair or not, perception moves brutally fast in fight culture. And right now, a lot of fans are pushing the same narrative that the courtroom is the one arena where hype doesn't help, confidence can't intimidate, and reputation alone doesn't carry you. With Anthony Joshua's lawsuit now part of the picture, the story has clearly crossed out of internet drama territory and into something much heavier. From here on out, it won't be decided by trash talk or viral clips, it'll be decided by documents, timelines, and consequences.
I could never do what he did. Yeah. Most people in the world could never do what he did. But he's got himself.
Tyson Fury's response only made the contrast feel louder. While Fury spoke calmly about respect, responsibility, and handling serious situations the right way, the online conversation around the Paul brothers was moving in the opposite direction, flooded with speculation, heated theories, and a growing sense that something much bigger than internet drama might be unfolding around their names to a lot of fans. The whiplash has been unreal. What started as influencer-era boxing content now feels, at least in perception, like it's drifting into a far heavier, more complicated zone involving legal talk, investigations, and questions that no amount of branding can smooth over. That's what has people stunned. The story no longer feels like content. It feels like a real-world situation with real consequences, and Fury's grounded tone only amplified how chaotic and uncomfortable the contrast has become.
They're not your enemies. They are your brothers and sisters under God. We all came from Adam and Eve. In the beginning, everybody on earth. Remember that.
Logan Paul's sudden shift into visible damage control shows just how serious the situation feels right now online. Fans are reacting as if an empire built on confidence and controversy has finally met something it can't outspin: a wave of legal talk, investigative rumors, and mounting scrutiny that's shaking the image of being untouchable. What once looked like bulletproof influencer power now looks fragile, exposed, and uncertain. People aren't just watching content anymore, they're watching reputations, brands, and futures being questioned in real time. And that change in tone is what's unsettling. Whether anything ultimately sticks or not, the perception alone is already doing damage. Because once the public starts to believe that real consequences might be on the table, the entire energy around internet celebrity changes. And right now, that shift is impossible to ignore.
I won't say a word, but yeah, I checked in on him. He's fine. He physically, again, it's a bit of a headache. We're figuring it out, and the story will.
Eddie Hearn didn't mince words, and that's what made his comments hit so hard. To him, Jake Paul's rise has always looked carefully planned, strategically managed, and tightly controlled, not accidental, not random, but engineered. Now, with rumors of investigations, legal chatter, and non-stop scrutiny swirling online, what once felt like internet drama has started to feel like something much bigger in the public imagination. The conversation has moved out of comment sections and into mainstream headlines, and that shift alone is changing how people see the Paul brothers. Across boxing circles and social media, fans are questioning, debating, and re-examining everything from branding to matchmaking to credibility. The tone has turned harsher. The patience is thinner. And the image of being untouchable is cracking. Whether anything ultimately sticks or not, the reputational pressure is real, and right now, it's the most uncomfortable spotlight the Paul brothers have faced yet.
What was it, about an hour ago? So I guess everything's calmed down a little bit. I thought it was a bitch move, if I'm honest, because anytime an attack like that is like premeditated.
Gar Miller's reaction mirrors what a lot of the boxing world is feeling right now: shock, unease, and a deep sense of vulnerability. The crash involving Anthony Joshua has shaken people not just because of how serious it was, but because of how close it came to becoming something far worse. What was once hype around a potential Paul-Joshua matchup has suddenly taken on a much darker tone. Instead of excitement, the conversation has shifted toward concern, scrutiny, and uncomfortable questions about responsibility, influence, and how quickly online spectacle can collide with real-world consequences. There are no conclusions yet, just fear, confusion, and a growing awareness of how fragile even elite athletes really are outside the ring. People close to Joshua appear emotionally shaken, fans are unsettled, and the entire situation has forced boxing audiences to look at influencer-era promotion through a far more serious lens. What once felt like entertainment now feels heavy. And whether the outcome is simple tragedy or something more complicated, the moment has clearly changed how many people view the risks surrounding modern fight culture.
You don't know what other people are going through. And even though AJ, we're not on the best terms, man, I feel for this brother, man. Because it could have been my family, could have been my friends. And, I feel like, man, it's mentally, kind of draining looking at this stuff all day online. And like I said, I didn't really see nothing too graphic until this morning. Now I've seen a lot of crazy stuff in my life, man. I've seen dead bodies before and all that.
Gareth Davies has been reporting with care and restraint, but there is an undeniable tension running beneath every update. What started as highly promoted talk around a potential Anthony Joshua-Jake Paul crossover has taken on a far heavier tone after a tragic crash, ongoing investigations, and the sudden presence of real loss. The mood among fans has shifted from excitement to unease. Instead of debating matchups and pay-per-view numbers, people are now grappling with grief, uncertainty, and uncomfortable questions about how influencer-era spectacle intersects with real-world consequences. Official statements remain measured and cautious, but public opinion is already forming in emotional, unpredictable ways. Anthony Joshua surviving the incident has only intensified those reactions. For many, it makes the situation feel more personal, more fragile, and more serious than anything connected to online promotion ever should be. What once felt like loud but harmless entertainment is now being viewed through a darker lens, not because conclusions have been reached, but because tragedy has a way of stripping away the feeling that everything is just content. And once that illusion breaks, even silence feels heavy.
What happened, obviously it's a tragic incident. 2 people have lost their lives. It's a horrific moment. I thought the reporting of it yesterday, I've read and obviously got in contact with his management team straight away. I thought the reporting of it was responsible.
The contrast is almost unbelievable. Anthony Joshua went from dominating Jake Paul, earning massive money, and soaking in universal praise to nearly losing his life in a horrific car accident. The emotional whiplash has been brutal, and the timing alone has shaken the fan base. What was once framed as entertainment and spectacle now feels far more fragile. The sudden shift from celebration to crisis has forced people to look at everything surrounding that moment with new eyes. The money involved, the pressure, the personalities, and the culture that lives around influencer-era boxing. AJ surviving feels like a miracle, but the unease hasn't faded. Instead, it has deepened. Fans aren't just replaying the fight anymore, they're replaying the timeline, searching for meaning, wondering how something that felt so controlled could be followed by something so devastating. The excitement has been replaced by fear, confusion, and unanswered questions. Not because conclusions have been reached, but because tragedy changes the way every detail feels. And once that shift happens, even silence carries weight.
And it's so crazy to think that over a week and a half ago, he was on top of the world. Apparently he'd pocketed $92 million from his Jake Paul fight. The American audience was in love with him. His star was bigger than ever. And then just yesterday, we see footage like this of AJ being pulled from the wreckage in a situation where if he'd just sat on the other side of the car, they wouldn't have been pulling him out.
Liam Gow's words underline just how serious this moment has become. Anthony Joshua survived, but 2 lives were lost, and that reality has changed the entire tone of what was once treated as sports entertainment. What began as a highly promoted fight has now been overshadowed by tragedy, scrutiny, and unresolved questions. The atmosphere around everyone connected to that moment feels heavier, more cautious, and far more somber than anything boxing fans are used to dealing with. Online, every new detail is being examined frame by frame. Not because conclusions have been reached, but because when loss enters the picture, people instinctively search for meaning, responsibility, and explanation. The story has shifted from hype to reflection, from spectacle to consequence. AJ's survival now stands in painful contrast to what was lost, and that contrast alone has reshaped how fans view the entire chapter. The excitement is gone. What remains is grief, unease, and a growing awareness that real life doesn't follow promotion schedules, and its consequences last far longer than any fight night ever could.
Still part of the plan. I did see a few of the pictures that were circulating from it. AJ leaving the vehicle.
Johnny Nelson's words hit differently in light of everything that has unfolded. What was once framed as a massive boxing spectacle has been eclipsed by tragedy, and that shift has forced fans to confront the uncomfortable reality that real lives exist behind the lights, the promotion, and the hype. Nelson's perspective reminds people that combat sports aren't just entertainment machines. They're communities made of real families, real friendships, and real consequences. When loss enters the picture, the tone changes permanently. The Paul brothers, once viewed as untouchable internet icons, are now being discussed in a far more serious context, not because conclusions have been reached, but because public trust becomes fragile when controversy, grief, and unanswered questions collide. Social media has reacted with shock, anger, and disbelief. Meanwhile, Anthony Joshua is no longer being spoken about only as a champion, but as someone who endured a deeply traumatic chapter that could have ended far worse. The hype has faded. What remains is reflection, discomfort, and a growing recognition that when tragedy intersects with celebrity, the consequences echo far beyond any fight night.
It's just sad. It just makes you realise how valuable life is and how things can change in a heartbeat. So when we talk about fights and we talk about beefs and these things are just nothing when it comes to real life and losing the life. So it was a sad thing to hear, sad thing to see. God knows how it'll affect those that saw it mentally, emotionally. But you've got to think about these two men who were somebody's child, someone's brother. And that's what you've got to think about, those people.
Eddie Hearn's measured tone stands in sharp contrast to the chaos swirling around Jake Paul. While Anthony Joshua is thankfully recovering without lasting physical damage, the situation has exposed how quickly hype can give way to discomfort when controversy, unanswered questions, and public scrutiny collide. What began as loud promotion, online bravado, and headline-grabbing spectacle has now shifted into something far heavier: a global conversation shaped by investigations, media attention, and a social media storm that is dissecting every move, post, and statement the same. Personality who once dominated timelines with bold challenges and viral confidence is now operating under an entirely different kind of spotlight. And in today's environment, that spotlight is unforgiving. Every silence is analyzed. Every word is weighed. Every rumor spreads faster than facts. Joshua's calm, restrained response has only intensified that contrast. Where one side projects composure and privacy, the other is surrounded by noise, speculation, and public doubt. The result is a boxing world that feels unsettled, less entertained, more cautious, and increasingly aware of how fragile credibility becomes when spectacle meets real-world consequences. The hype hasn't just cooled. It's been replaced by scrutiny.
You know, it doesn't look like he has any major injuries. Is true, and that would be fantastic. And obviously, he'd be a very lucky boy if that was the case. But we hope that is
The possibility of serious criminal charges connected to reckless driving has cast a heavy shadow over the Paul brothers' public image. What once looked like a flashy boxing rivalry and online spectacle has now drifted into far more serious territory, the kind that brings investigations, legal scrutiny, and international attention into the conversation. Reports of inquiries tied to the aftermath of Anthony Joshua's crash have stunned fans and shifted the tone overnight. The story is no longer about hype, trash talk, or viral moments. It has become about responsibility, judgment, and the real-world consequences that can follow public behavior. Across social media, reactions range from shock to anger to uneasy speculation. Past stunts, bold statements, and controversial moments are being re-examined through a harsher lens, as people imagine how differently this could have ended had Joshua not survived. What was once framed as internet-era entertainment now feels like a cautionary moment, a reminder that when fame, ego, and risky behavior collide, the fallout can move far beyond screens, views, and promotions, and into situations that demand accountability rather than applause.
Image of both of them together. Now, Nigerian police sources has indicated that Adeniyi will be facing some serious felony charges for reckless driving. And I know a lot of you guys are curious, such as I, on, what would be the punishment or the penalty for reckless driving in Nigeria. So I looked it up. And if you are a reckless driver in Nigeria and you cause a fatality on a federal road,
Here's a tightened and safer rewrite that keeps the drama while avoiding unverified accusations. Gareth Davies' perspective highlights just how risky this matchup truly was and how differently it now reflects on each fighter. Anthony Joshua walked away from the spotlight showing control, composure, and professionalism. Jake Paul, by contrast, now finds his public image under far harsher scrutiny. What began as a high-profile fight and viral spectacle has taken on a much heavier tone in the wake of Joshua's serious car accident. Fans are no longer just debating punches and scorecards. They are revisiting interviews, stunts, and online bravado, questioning whether parts of the influencer-era fight culture have crossed from bold promotion into something more reckless and irresponsible. Joshua's calm response and recovery have only sharpened the contrast. Where one fighter appears grounded and restrained, the other is increasingly associated in public discussion with chaos, controversy, and poor judgment. The same spectacle that once fueled excitement now feels to many like a warning story, a reminder that when hype, ego, and risk collide, the fallout can quickly move beyond entertainment and into uncomfortable, real-world consequences.
Denzel Bentley, apparently we have Denzel's phone. I'll reach out to him to get his line, but that guy is like, now he thinks Denzel Bentley's been kidnapped. He realized that's why they don't let you in the country, Derek. this kind of shit.
No, they wanted me. They said I had to get this vaccinated. Fucking yellow fever.
Oh yeah.
I mean, like they're still running with this scam.
Have you done it?
They still run with this scam, yellow fever. Motherfucker, if you does yellow fever here, you think the British people will have to come here and take yellow fever back to London? Ain't no fucking yellow fever here. It's a fucking scam.
All right, last one. After what you saw last night, do you change your opinion at all about Joshua versus Fury, and what can he take?
The Anthony Joshua-Jake Paul storyline has taken a shocking turn. AJ's survival after a terrifying car accident stunned the boxing world and instantly changed the tone of what had once been flashy hype and influencer-era spectacle. What began as viral trash talk, big paydays, and YouTube-driven promotion has now been overshadowed by concern, uncertainty, and a wave of public debate. Fans are split between shock and anger, re-examining old interviews, past stunts, and the entire culture that surrounded the build-up to this rivalry. Joshua's calm, professional response and his remarkable recovery have only intensified the contrast. Where AJ appears measured and grounded, Jake's loud, high-energy persona is now being viewed through a far more critical lens. The boxing world is buzzing, and public perception around Jake has clearly shifted. His reputation is under heavier scrutiny than ever, and many people are openly questioning what comes next for him. So what do you think? Will this moment fade like other internet controversies, or has the conversation around Jake Paul changed for good?